Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And joining me on Zoom this morning is Kelly Moorman. She's a suicide prevention coordinator lead at Finger Lakes VA. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And joining me in that studio is the acting Steuben County and Family Court Judge and Corning City Court Judge, Matt McCarthy. Hey, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you again, Frank. Thanks for having me on.
I want to do the disclaimer, and just so people are aware, when I interview a judge candidate, it's quite different because you can't really answer anything.
Correct.
You make my job very difficult.
I'm a very boring interview.
Yes,
I hate to say it.
I know. I can't even ask who, what, when, where, and why. It's too much,
Yes.
I think. So just so people are aware, that's why some of it won't get into specifics. Okay, let's start with the softball background.
So I have been the acting Steuben County and Family Court Judge for the last 10 years, as well as the elected Corning City Court Judge. Prior to that, I was an assistant district attorney and represented children in family court for 12 years.
Wow.
So all those things have led me to where I am today.
Wow, and that's how long have you been acting Steuben County Family Court?
10 years. It
that
started
right?
January 1st when I was elected Corning City Court day one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you know that was part of the job?
I did not.
Okay.
I was made aware by the late Henry Scudder, who was from this area.
Yes, correct.
He was the presiding judge of the 4th Department, and he called me about 2 weeks after I was elected. He said, "You're going to get something in the mail."
today's show. That'll come up in just a moment. I want to thank everyone for sending in comments and weighing in on the debate. We had so much back and forth. We actually went off the air right as I was getting ready to read Ken's review of the debate. Now, Ken, if you are new to the program, has sent in detailed reports while watching the DNC this summer, watching, I believe, if I recall correctly, the RNC, also talking about the debate. So we're going to get to those. They're still all very relevant, all very important. Oh, and I forgot to start with our waves. But I wanted to make the announcement that Representative Nick Langworthy will be our guest right around 7 o'clock. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. Nick will be joining us live from Washington, D.C., and we have a lot to cover, as you can imagine. So it's not too late to get those questions in. I will try to do my best to get to as many as I can because we received a lot of questions, and I thank you for that. All right, let's start with the comments from after yesterday's program and during yesterday's program. But first, here's what happened. We're getting ready to start Ken's review, and is it frozen? Or are people just messing with me? It looks good from my end. Okay, the music played maybe a little long. Okay, appreciate that. Still working out some of the bugs, and this is why. Yesterday on the program, and keep me updated if there is any issues, but what happened yesterday, right around 6:40, we're about to start Ken's review, and boom. The lights, everything goes out. It's completely black. So I wonder, did something happen here at the station? Everything across the street looks fine. So I walked out, and this whole side of Market Street, the whole side, every block, was completely without power. The red lights, everything without power. So it wasn't here at the station. It was all of Market Street, but just this side. And I appreciate some of the comments saying, well, it's interesting the power came back as you were talking about the debate, came back right after the show was over. I don't believe any type of conspiracy was involved in this. I think it was just pure dumb luck that we lost power on such an important news day. So that's why we are going to go back and read the comments from you, the viewer, you, the analysts, the pundits that we missed on yesterday's program. First, we'll start with one that I received actually early this morning. Good morning. I'm going to add that to the waves. Now I see on the news that all of a sudden inflation is slowing and is at its lowest level since 2021. That inflation is slowing makes sense since the average person could not afford to live if it went any higher. But this Democrat strategy is clearly meant to make the present administration look like they are responsible for the delusion that they are working on the economy and are having success, when in fact they are only working to disillusion those who take things at face value and don't think so deeply in order to get these shallow thinkers to vote for Harris. Thank you very much, viewer. Next up, and we are going to end our comments for just this section with Ken's review finally. So cross your fingers that the power doesn't go out again. Then we'll have conspiracies running amok. Okay. Hi, Frank. This is Leon. Hi, Leon. Calling after watching President Trump last night. There's no way in heck, and I'm a true Republican, there's no way in heck I will vote for that bitter old man. Interesting. So we'll not vote for Trump. And this is why this program is so unique. We give both sides, unlike the ABC moderators, who I think even the most staunch Harris supporter would have to admit was very biased during the debate. Even so much so that you had liberal commentators cheering them on live on X during the debate. But continuing. Good morning, Frank, and God bless you. Well, God bless you too, and good morning to you as well. I feel Kamala Harris is a total clown disaster. I felt Donald Trump was very precise and explained his policies in a very effective manner. Thank you, viewer. Next up, and I know this is kind of cheating because I'm using waves from yesterday, but I'm still allowing it. I'm the judge, jury, and executioner here. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I watched part of the debate and was unimpressed by both. Trump was like the grumpy old man yelling at the kids to get off his yard. Harris was just air and poking the bear. I was hoping that some substance would come out, but it was just the same old politics. And to that viewer's point, the one criticism, even coming from those in the mainstream media on Harris, was that there wasn't a lot of substance. Now, I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I would have liked to seen, as the moderators called for Trump to explain on certain issues or to go further. You never really answered my question. I would have liked to seen that on the flip-flopping question. You know, you're changing your positions from back when you ran in 2019, Kamala Harris. Why is that? Not a real answer. But the problem was Trump, instead of letting her answer, took over the conversation. And that was a common thread on the debate, unfortunately. And we're going to talk about it in depth. Next up, from a different viewer. Frankly, I've always thought the DNC PACs have been taking opportunities to sabotage your broadcasts during critical political election times dating back to your radio days. How coincidental that this downtime occurs the day after the debate to prevent discussion about it. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to think that the DNC PACs are paying attention to me at all. But thank you. I don't think anything conspiratorial happened. Next up, Trump didn't take a bullet. Bunch of baloney. He's a bully. He won't or can't answer questions intelligently. He'd rather point fingers, call names, and appear angry and lie with his middle school-aged demeanor. Try to focus on what Trump's plan and proposal is. Oh, that's right. He has none. They ate my dog. He's a liar. Trump lost last night, and he'll lose in November. You know this, and you all sound nervous and afraid. He's done. Lock him up. Thank you, viewer. I think sometimes people write in thinking that we will not read the comments. I still don't think the optics of chanting lock him up is smart when we've heard from so many people that they've changed their position on Trump because of the quote-unquote lawfare used against him. The numerous trials, all of that. I don't know. Who am I to judge? I mean, it's going to continue to happen because it has been happening since Harris took the nod. Okay, now finally, get ready. I'm still going to keep checking to make sure we're on the air. We're going to Ken's review of the debate. Ken says, Frank, I watched the entire debate and learned absolutely nothing. Harris skirted any question on why she has changed her positions on guns, Medicare for all, her anti-fracking position, defunding the police, border security, etc. She called Trump names while saying there needs to be more decency in politics. That is a common theme. And we saw that at the DNC as well. Badmouth Trump and his supporters and then say how we have to unify and become more decent. Continuing with what Ken had to say. Many talking points with no substance. She recanted all the debunked anti-Trump talking points, like good guys or good people on both sides, bloodbath, dictator on day one, etc. She put out the buyers, $6,000, vote buyers, $6,000 child care credit, $50,000 tax break for small business startups. We still have no idea on what a Harris presidency will bring to the table. Trump didn't stay focused. He allowed her to get under his skin. He went off on tangents. He seemed mad some of the time. But I guess you can say Trump was Trump. I was disappointed that after Harris skirted questions, Trump never took her to task for not answering. I agree. That was very frustrating. And as I had mentioned on the show yesterday while it was still on, went down rabbit holes that I think in the end were completely unnecessary. It was 90 minutes of precious time that Trump had where Kamala Harris would not be scripted. Perhaps and most likely the only 90 minutes before Election Day. So I would have liked to have seen a more disciplined Trump like we saw in the Biden debate of letting her answer the questions, letting her make her policy positions. And for whatever reason, and you can weigh in on this if you agree or disagree, some in the media are saying that it really was the size of his rallies and questioning that, which I don't believe she's accurate, but she knew that that is a very important topic to him, and that seemed to set him off. But I would also add, and I think we've all experienced this in life, especially if you've talked politics, where when you feel that you're ganged up on and it's you versus the world, you get more perhaps aggressive. You get more, he was not painted into a corner. He was backed into a corner when you have, and I know you can say it's cliche at this point, but when it's 3 against 1. And by saying it's cliche or just a political talking point, doesn't diminish the fact that that's what we saw during the debate, that it was the two moderators and Harris going after Trump. So again, brushing it off on either party and saying, well, that's, you knew where you were going, and we've heard that time and time again. It doesn't take that fact away. It doesn't diminish it. But I'm going to continue what Ken had to say. I do this with Ken. I go off on tangents, and I apologize. If anyone was paying attention, they finally heard that most of Trump. Well, let me see that again. If anyone was paying attention, they finally heard that most of the 60 court cases on the 2020 election were dismissed by liberal judges, saying Trump didn't have standing when he was the one that was harmed. The moderators did a horrible job. They made efforts to fact-check Trump and never pressed her to answer. I'm sorry, it's a different font, I think. And pressed him a little on answering questions he skirted. They never fact-checked Harris and never pressed her to answer skirted questions. That was very frustrating. I've read numbers up to 7, but I think the consensus now is there was 5 fact-checks against Trump to 0 Harris. The one and only high point was when Trump was talking and Harris tried to talk over him. Trump responded by saying, "I'm talking," yes, and using that line that she, I guess they tell us, became so famous for in the Pence debate. I did not remember. I obviously, after seeing the clip, it was just a forgettable debate in general. But I guess that was the one kind of point that she made, which was, hey, I'm talking here, and everybody assumed she was going to try it during this debate, and Trump kind of cut her off at the knees. Ken wraps up by saying, a colossal waste of time. I saw no winners here. So look at that. We're starting the program with just viewer comments. I love it. Keep them coming in. We do have a lot to catch up on. Again, if you're just joining us, Market Street lost power, at least this side, just this side, I should say, of the street. Other side lit up like a Christmas tree, but not this side. So that's what happened right around 6:40 yesterday. We're back. We got catch up to do. Hopefully we can talk a little bit about Cuomo's testimony. We never got a chance to talk about that, about the COVID-19 nursing home deaths. We obviously have a lot here about the Harris campaign, the Trump campaign, the debate. What did you think of Taylor Swift's endorsement? All of those, much more. Stay with us. We're running just a little bit late, but we're just getting started here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hesselsen's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselsen's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselsen's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
I have 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardians at each day's start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
Serious side effects may include ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of infection in your legs or feet. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with a big story to tell.
3 on Fox.
Here we go.
AJ McCarron leads the St. Louis Battlehawks.
McCarron, touchdown!
Against the Birmingham Stallions.
What a grab!
The United Football League. This week on Fox.
Name a food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
bet that made you a little nervous. The spot must have come up short. But we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, a few quick comments here. ABC is a disgrace with their biased moderators as they turn on Trump during the debate. This from a viewer. So in the future, I will not watch ABC News again. Think that there is a possible October surprise coming from the press, possibly that Biden overnight cannot serve so that Kamala will be president of the United States before the election. They want her in before the election. There's some people have made that suggestion because there is a power of incumbency. Boy, that does seem like that would be the last insult to injury for Biden, who's been insulted all the way. Did you see yesterday? It's almost like he doesn't care anymore. He put on a Trump hat. He took a photo with a bunch of kids in Trump gear. And I'm not saying he's endorsing Trump. I'm not saying that at all. It was a part of the conversation he was having, about unity and coming together. But it just got weird. So it's a fair question. I know that Michael Moore called for that exact scenario to happen a few months ago. Finally, still, why has she not done all the things that she said? She can fix the economy. She can fix all those things. Why has she not done it? She seems to just be lying for votes, just like when you give a dog a treat to jump. Thank you. All right. I have to give you this update because it's been a while. We talk about the importance of voting. We're really lucky. On Friday, we're going to be talking to candidate and acting Steuben County and Family Court Judge Matt McCarthy on Friday. And then on Monday, we're going to have on his opponent. And that's what this show is about, to learn as much about the candidates before you go into the voting booth as possible. And we actually have a special that will be coming out soon, and I'll keep you updated, where we talk to the Board of Elections and we talk to different party leaders to find out how we can get involved, how you can make sure you register, what you need to know, what's maybe different this year than last, absentees, all the questions that you have. We're going to have a special on that because it's so important to get out and vote at the end of the day. And this is the example that I use, and that's Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Now, Dolton, of course, is in Illinois. You've heard about her spending lavishly on trips and it really allegedly draining the coffers and putting the town in debt. And when they said, we want to do an audit, meaning the board or the council wanted to do an audit, and it was voted unanimously, she vetoed it and still wouldn't let them do the audit, which is probably the biggest red flag when you talk about an audit on government finances, right? Well, now she has thrown an extravagant, star-studded $85,000 town party. Then she was upset and pouted when colleagues pulled the plug on another event. So I don't think she's learned. And the flyer for the event, by the way, has her featured front and center. I mean, she's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. They call her the Dolton Dictator. She hired rappers and R&B artists to play, but the event turned out to be a flop. Residents did not attend. She said on Facebook, "I told you, we always got something going on." And then she called herself the super mayor and the people's mayor. But in order to pull the event off, called the Taste of Thornton Township, Henyard's administration spent tens of thousands of dollars, including a performance of R&B artist Kiki Wyatt for $30,000 and rapper Jay Holiday for $20,000, according to WGN, which stands for World Greatest Network. The town also spent $6,600 for bouncy houses and paid for a sound system, staffing, and equipment. The total, slightly more than $85,000. So again, I know this is not our area, but I mention it because it is such a fine and prime example of why you need to know who you're voting on. Probably a lot of people went in and she made some platitudes, some great stump speeches. They voted for her. And we learned at one point they spent $43,000 on Amazon in one day and these type of things and just draining the budget. And it's too little too late. Nothing has been done. So that was just an update. I know some of you like those updates. Some of you don't. But at the end of the day, it is all about showing the importance of voting. One other quick story before we get into the debate. This may not make the national rounds. You may not see this on mainstream media, but White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby This is going to give a lot of people chills. Because have you ever made that mistake where you hit reply all on an email instead of reply, and you're thinking instantly, what did I say? He inadvertently emailed a reporter that there is, quote, no use in responding to veterans' concerns about the Harris-Biden administration's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. So again, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby responded, I think it was Fox that he actually sent it to, a Fox News reporter, saying that there's no use in responding to veterans' concerns about the Afghanistan disaster, the withdrawal. He apparently intended to send his dismissive response to White House staffers, but yes, accidentally hit reply all on an email chain that included the Fox News reporter making the inquiry. Quote, obviously no use in responding. A handful of vets, indeed, and all of one stripe, he put in the email. Now, the media question was related to comments from 4 veterans blasting Kirby for, quote, trying to cover for the Harris-Biden administration's botched exit, which I think he kind of proved their point, didn't he, in that email? Kirby later admitted, clearly, I didn't realize you were on the chain. The White House official's response has been deemed callous and shameful by many on the right. Senator John Thune said, this is how the Biden-Harris administration talks about the well-founded concerns of our nation's veterans. Just days after the anniversary of the deadly Afghanistan withdrawal, on the anniversary of 9/11, our Gold Star families deserve better. Not a good day for Mr. Kirby yesterday. And yesterday, the big news, Harris and Trump attending the same 9/11 ceremony just hours after their first debate. Also there yesterday at the event was President Joe Biden, former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg, Harris, Trump, as I mentioned, J.D. Vance, and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Speaking of 9/11 events, went to the First Responders Park in Irwin. What an amazing event, like it was every year. And I can't thank you enough to everybody who came up and said, what happened to the show yesterday? I got to explain the power outage here on Market Street. So thank you for coming up and saying such kind words about the show. It was an amazing event. Great speeches. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano was there, representatives from Tom O'Mara's office, and Congressman Nick Langworthy, who we're going to be talking to in just a little bit. We're all there. And it was just... mark it on your calendar for next year. You don't want to miss it. It's an annual event that I would not miss. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention twin-tier homeowners. Are you tired of paying too much for your energy bills? It's time you discover Koala Insulation of the Southern Tier, a premier insulation contractor. The professionals at Koala Insulation can give you a free, no-obligation insulation evaluation. It's one of the best home improvement investments you can make. Give us a call at 607-463-0616.
Discover Koala Insulation of Southern Tier. We are fully insured. Visit koalainsulation.com and find us near you.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better. My back feels better. It makes me feel stronger, too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper Quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. A couple quick comments from viewers. What do you think of Biden putting on Trump's hat? Well, I kind of already answered that. I really think Biden has the attitude of, you remember back in school when they called it senioritis, when you were a senior and you just stopped maybe doing some of the assignments, or you kind of took it a little easy. I mean, let's face it, he's a lame duck. He's just got a few months, so now it's time to have fun at these campaign events. So he put on the hat, and it was all in the name, if you're not familiar with the story, it was all in the name of kind of unifying as a country. So he gave the gentleman, I think, the presidential hat with a presidential seal on it, and that guy gave him the Trump hat, and he put it on very quickly. The Trump campaign, needless to say, ran with it, which is to be expected. That's not, I mean, I'm trying to think historically. Have you ever seen that happen? I can't think of a photo like that off the top of my head. And then later in the day, he takes a picture with a group of kids, and all the kids have Trump gear on. It was a weird day, and not necessarily a good day for the president, saying he has to do 9/11 like an event. It was kind of a flippant remark. Another comment from a different viewer. I think your update is relevant. And this is about super mayor, self-described super mayor, Tiffany Henyard out of Dolton, Illinois, who is just spending lavishly because it shows yet again how much Democrats like to spend, which is why they need to have high taxes. Thank you very much for that comment. All right, Trump suggests he won't debate Harris again, and then attacks ABC over moderators fact-checking. I don't know, this coming from CNN. Brian Stetler, he's back. I don't know how you could, if you're being fair. Listen, I think, if anything, the comments have shown in our discussion yesterday for 40 minutes and so far this morning, I think, if anything, our discussions have shown that we're fair. And listen, there's some people that are biased out there that were watching the debate, or not even biased, have made up their mind. Obviously, most people that watched it have done that already, but have been fair, saying, well, Trump went down these rabbit holes that were unnecessary and wasted some of those 90 minutes, or give or take, of precious time when it could have been Harris talking about her policies, which are, according to her own website, pretty lackluster, not a lot of substance. So I think we've been pretty fair, and I don't know, and I would post, I know we've been getting a lot of comments from people that don't care for Trump and said they won't vote for Trump. I'd ask the question, did you think the moderators were fair? Do you think that played a factor? The idea that if you accept the premise that they weren't fair, that it was 3 against 1, but which actually really played in Harris's favor, because Trump does not do well when backed into a corner. What I mean by do well is he gets aggressive. And I think that's human nature. I think we're all like that a little bit. I think we've probably all been in a scenario where it's maybe 3 friends, 4 friends that are all of one political persuasion trying to argue against you of the other political persuasion. And it does, I remember doing a political event one time where it was me kind of as the token Republican. It was me versus 15 Democrats on stage and an audience full of Democrats. And I remember by the end of it, some of my positions had maybe went a little bit more, I don't know, stronger position that I would normally take, to not cede an inch, So I think that's what we saw. But unfortunately, some of the discussions and some of the topics that Trump chose, perhaps not what you or I would opt for. Now, Chris Christie, who is always very quick to offer his opinion on something, even though no one asked, he says Harris should not do another debate because there are talks now. Will there be a second? I don't believe there is, but I have clearly been historically wrong on my predictions of debates. I wasn't wrong technically on Trump-Biden. When I said it wouldn't happen, I just should have said it shouldn't happen if Biden shouldn't have taken it. In this case, I thought maybe Harris would back out, and she did not. She was well prepared. I think Tulsi Gabbard said she must have talked to some of the Hollywood donors and got the kind of Hollywood lessons, acting lessons. Some call it prepared. I've heard some people say over-prepared. I think it wasn't so much over-prepared. I think she came very prepared. She was ready with her answers on her issues and ready to attack Trump and goad him into that fight, and the moderators were more than happy to help in goading him into that fight. So I think, at least with Harris, she was prepared. But to me, after watching hundreds of debates through the years, over-prepare is not the right word, but a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to use the term phony because it's so loaded. But just they told her, hey, the split screen was disastrous for Biden. So we're going to practice these different expressions and these different, the hand on the chin and all that. I don't know. It just seemed like someone that was very well prepared, almost to the point of high school debate team. You've got to move your hand at this point. You've got to, project at this point. But anyway, Chris Christie says she should not do another debate. He was on The View. Now, this is another example, just like with Liz Cheney and so many others in the past, of Republicans who, if they turn on Republicans and support Democrats, they are not only the best Republicans to ever walk the face of the earth, they will now be stars on The View. They'll be asked to come on The View or on MSNBC shows like Joe Scarborough, or go on ABC, NBC. Liz Cheney will be considered a great conservative Republican, so great that she endorsed Kamala Harris. But this is what Chris Christie said. Look, in the end last night, she did what she had to do, which was she's the lesser known person with the lesser profile. She needed to show those undecided voters that she belonged on that stage. Christie continued, last night she showed she belonged on the stage. And that's why, look, I saw her campaign put out a challenge for a second debate right after the debate. Please stop, don't do it. Now, this is what Joy Behar said, just to show you, because I had to quote her. She interjects by saying, you do not toy with perfection. So I posed a question to you. Was Tuesday's debate for Harris perfection? Also, do you think there'll be a second debate? Or I should ask that too. So Christie finishes with, don't do it. Really, seriously. You get in the ring against a guy who has had more presidential debates than anybody in history, and you knock him around. Raise your arms, go to 2 rallies a day, raise some money, and go home, man. Don't, because nothing great can happen for her in a second debate. She'll either do as well as she did this time, okay, or he could do better. So basically, he's laying out the plan there, Chris Christie, of what we've been saying on this program, which has been her campaign plan, which is essentially keep your head down, do the rallies, do scripted events, don't do interviews, don't do press conferences, don't put yourself in positions where you have to think off the cuff. Because she didn't, technically she had to think off the cuff during the debate, right? But that was so well rehearsed, so well practiced, and you saw it. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing for her, as was evident by Tuesday. So anyway, I want to see your comments and what you think. But Chris Christie, always there to offer his opinion of what someone should do and shouldn't do. Trump allies are doing damage control as Harris rides fresh momentum post-debate, even using momentum. Did I write that headline on Monday? If not, pretty close. The momentum post-debate. All right. So the media got definitely what they wanted in this scenario, which was Harris obviously did enough, had a good showing, so they can say that's going to boost the momentum. And then on the back end, they can focus on the things Trump said that, again, I keep using the term rabbit hole, but the rabbit holes he went down, they can focus on that and say it was a disaster. And then you start to get the pieces where people in the House, people in the Senate that are allies of Trump, they're saying it was a disaster. They don't know what to do. They're in damage control mode. Some have even likened it to Biden's performance somehow. I think, you start to see how radicalized the coverage could be, how kind of out of control they'll get when they see a little bit of an opening that, yes, Harris did have a good performance. Trump went down some rabbit holes he did not need to go down to. But to Ken's point, Trump being Trump. But that's all they needed. And they know you just got to wear out the clock. until November, and that's right around the corner, folks, here on September the 12th. But we got to take a break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
I have 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardians at each day's start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
Serious side effects may include ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of infection in your legs or feet. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with a big story to tell.
I'm Marianne Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
The BIX website is here now, WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
Wow, I could tell you guys missed having the show on yesterday. We're getting so many comments in this morning. Thank you so much. We're going to get to those in just a moment. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Quick reminder, at the top of the hour, we'll be talking with Congressman Nick Langworthy live from Washington via Zoom. All right, let's go through some of these comments. Case in point, did you notice that during the debate, Harris said nothing about the middle class, but instead was talking about giving loads of money to those less fortunate? Where is that money going to come from? Middle class, beware. I agree with your point. I've got to disagree that middle class was not brought up, because I learned numerous times that Kamala Harris comes from a middle class background. So middle class came up quite a bit when she gave her biography, especially at the very beginning. That was her kind of working out the, getting her sea legs. How about that? Okay, next up, the fact that Trump doesn't like being backed into a corner is exactly why he makes a great president. In his former term, he didn't let any of our adversaries get a step ahead of him. Thank you, viewer. Good point. Next up, good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Trump has to have known beforehand that ABC and moderators would be hostile. Of course he did. Everybody did. So his propensity to become angry and reactionary is his own choice. But the substance was of little value. As a voter, I was not satisfied with the results. Thank you for your honesty. I agree that you knew the bias of the moderators. You knew Harris was going to try to goad you into that anger. So I'm with you. When I was watching it, you hate to say took the bait, but he took the bait. But to the other viewer's point, that's why it worked with our adversaries. So, but I appreciate your candor and your honesty there. Next up, Did you see after the debate they polled undecided voters? 60% said they were leaning more towards Trump because Harris never explained what any of her plans are. She just kept saying she has a plan, but no descriptions. I did not see that specific poll. We have some polling here. You know, I'm not the biggest on polls because I think they can be easily manipulated to try to persuade voters. So I did not see that. Thank you, though. And finally, Chris Christie spoke like a true traitor to the Republican Party. However, he was right. She needs to just tiptoe her way into the White House. I would agree. That's why I read that quote from Chris Christie. Obviously, if you've heard me on this program before, not a Christie fan. But having said that, he's not wrong. He laid out the plan that we actually have been talking about on this program for months. Well, how long has she been the presumptive nominee? For that long, about what her game plan is. Once we saw the writing on the wall that she wasn't giving press conferences, that she wasn't answering reporters' questions, it didn't take long for the light bulb to go off and say, wow, this is kind of a weird way of putting this, but Biden's basement campaign during COVID on steroids, where is hand-selected, not even interviews from friendly territory. It is just scripted rallies. And, of course, she had the one interview in a friendly territory, CNN, with Dana Bash, and it still needed walls there with her. All right. According to Samuel Chamberlain from the New York Post, Kamala Harris clearly won the debate over Donald Trump, but the vice president got no bump from voters after the performance. That is according to the polling that I just said I would not mention, but it's worth quickly. In the survey conducted by Leaguer, half of respondents who watched at least some portion of the debate said Harris was the winner, while 29% said Trump had gotten the better of the VP, and 13% said neither candidate had won the showdown. All right, we're moving fast here because I know we're going to be spending quite a bit of time with Congressman Nick Langworthy, and we have a lot of questions for him. Okay, coming from Melissa Del Rosa, do you remember that name? Nope, don't think I'm moving ahead to Governor Cuomo already and his hearing. Well, Melissa Del Rosa worked for Governor Cuomo, was kind of his right-hand person. What's interesting about her, just to show you kind of the politics of New York, after the scandal that brought down Cuomo, they put out a poll and said, would you vote for Del Rosa? So you already saw the scandal. You saw not just a nursing home tragedy, but also the scandal, the personal scandals that he had. And New York City specifically, but New York voters said overwhelmingly they would support her for office, and they didn't even need to name what office. Just to show you a little bit about the makeup of what we're dealing with here in New York. She says, put the debate champagne away, Democrats. Trump can still beat Harris. A doddering old man, he was not. Donald Trump didn't limp onto the stage. His eyes were not vacant. His skin was not gray. And his sentences were coherent, even when nonsensical. And in the first 30 minutes, Trump fought like a guy who literally has his life on the line. And then he became Donald Trump. Instead of focusing on the very real vulnerabilities of Harris's campaign, on issues like issues key to the narrow slice of the swing state electorate who will decide the election, mainly economy and border security, he jumped the shark in typical Trump fashion. Okay, I think that there's some fair points that she's making here. But Kamala Harris is not Joe Biden. She is young, vibrant, and can string together a sentence. But that's not why she delivered a crushing blow to Trump. Harris didn't win the debate because she's not Joe Biden. She won because she's Kamala Harris. This is where I disagree. I think she won in many ways because Trump lost. Because if you judge it on a debate, on policy, substance, it was not there. I think she won the debate in the sense of, doing what she set out to do, which was to throw Trump off his game, which isn't even the right term because that is kind of Trump's game at points, but to get him angry, and it worked. And just like with her interview with CNN where she needed walls for backup, in this scenario, she had backup from ABC moderators. This is what Melissa Del Rosa finishes up on. So far, Harris is playing error-free ball. She should demand more debates. Oh, this is interesting. Taking the opposite approach of Chris Christie. She should demand more debates. If he gives them to her, she wins. If he doesn't, she wins by the tactic omission for Trump that he knows he can't beat her one-on-one. We've got 54 days left, and this was written yesterday, so 53, 52, something like that, to go until the election, and a lot can happen between now and then. Harris and her team have to keep running like we are behind. It's the only way we'll end up ahead. They're not really running like they're behind, though. I know they say that, and they say we're the underdogs, we don't stand a chance. They do all the talking points. But at the end of the day, they're not running like they're behind, or you would be doing interviews. You would be doing more to have your message reach the people, reach the voters. Got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better, and it makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. If you are just joining us, just waking up, yesterday we lost power here. All on this whole block, or not block, excuse me, this whole side of Market Street, all the blocks on this side of Market Street. So that's what happened, and I know that you're making up for it by getting great comments in. Here's one from a viewer. Well, I really hope that Trump makes it, and I have a job for Harris. She can go into advertising because she's really good at it. Thank you very much. Stephen Collinson said, while Democrats were euphoric after Harris's performance, partisans often judge a debate based on their own political preferences. Even if he loses ground after the debate, Trump has long had the advantage on the top two issues in this election, the economy and immigration. So you're seeing some of these pieces by people that you would assume, and rightfully so, support Harris, that are making the claim because they don't want, as the old saying goes, you don't want the Harris supporters to get fat and happy. You know, you get lazy. You don't want that. You want them to still, to Melissa Del Rosa's point, fight like you're behind, because it is such a close race. So what he's doing there, and so many others are saying, well, you know, it was a good debate, but it's not over. Trump can still win this. That's the message to people, that you still have to go out there and work, that you still have to go out there and donate. Now, we've been showing really the side this morning of the Harris won, Trump lost, but Liz Peek put together what she considers the biggest losers in the Trump-Harris debate. The biggest loser in the first and likely only presidential debate was ABC News, according to Liz Peek. The moderators, David Muir and Lindsay Davis, embarrassed themselves and their network by, among other things, fact-checking Trump in real time on more than one occasion, sometimes incorrectly, while allowing Harris to spout serial lies and distortions. Yes, the fact that at the very beginning that they did not call out the Project 2025, a point that Harris was making, because Trump had nothing to do with that, goes to show you from the jump that it was going to be bias. Social media blew up early in the debate, with commentators on the right calling Tuesday night's face-off the worst and most one-sided debate in history. Some of the non-truths, quickly here, that should have been fact-checked from Harris, talking about Project 2025 and saying that he will pass a nationwide abortion ban. Dredging up Trump's Charlottesville comment, saying Trump had overseen the worst unemployment since the Great Depression, which was caused by the pandemic. Saying Donald Trump was opposed to IVF. Denying that Kamala Harris ever called for gun confiscation. There are videos of her saying just that. Saying that Trump's tax cuts only helped rich people. And at last, saying that she and Biden had created 800,000 manufacturing jobs, which is simply not true. Perhaps that was inevitable. The liberal media is in full panic mode now that Harris's honeymoon appears to have faded and Trump has pulled even and in some polls moved back in the lead. And that's what it was. It's to get that momentum started again. And let's face it, after that debate performance, they have about 2 weeks, at least to the end of the week and the early next week, of pushing the honeymoon phase again, the trajectory, the momentum of Harris. Harris's pathetic effort to avoid committing to any policies while on the campaign trail has failed. Her refusal to do solo interviews and press conferences have left American voters in the dark. Consequently, the debate was important. People want to know where she stands. Unfortunately, she did not make that clear. And I don't want to go through much more of what she had to say because we have so much more to get to. But asking the question, how do taxpayers pay for all these opportunities? Like, what was it, $50,000 for new startups and the like? Trump, on the other hand, though, failed to prosecute his case. While Harris appeared overprepared and practiced with ready-to-go gestures and studied mannerisms, Trump was clearly underprepared. It is frustrating to his supporters because he has the facts on his side. He actually did build a strong economy, but saw it slammed by COVID. He actually did leave the world at peace and negotiated significant new alliances between Middle Eastern countries. He actually did demote Iran's ability to wage proxy wars through sanctions and constrained Russian energy dominance by canceling the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And he alerted the world to China's dishonest intentions and rule breaking. None of his predecessors had tried to rein in Beijing. But instead of forcefully arguing about his success, he meandered and he forgot to smile. Rather than patiently and systematically challenge Harris with evidence that his administration had helped the middle class more than hers, Trump reverted to form, claiming once again he actually won the 2020 election. That was one of the rabbit holes, right? That was a mistake, and the liberal press was doubtlessly jumping for joy, yes, because now they can focus on those comments. They can talk about January 6th. They can talk about all of it over and over again, all while giving Harris the completely positive coverage and talking about the momentum. And the unfortunate thing is he rose to the bait more than once. And really, when Harris slammed his rallies, saying people got bored and walked out, he couldn't resist devolving into arguing about crowd sizes yet again. His most effective moment of the evening was asking in his concluding statement why she hadn't moved forward with her opportunity economy and other plans during the past 3.5 years. Why hadn't she fixed the border or created more jobs? That's a question the moderators should have been asking. So that's Liz Peek. Got to take a break. Stay with us. So this is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
Hi, I'm Suzanne. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the frankly delicious Turkey Club special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
Thursday, it's Baseball Night in America on Fox. And it's the game's biggest rivalry. Aaron Judge looks to continue his own record-breaking season as he leads the Yankees' fight for the AL East against Rafael Devers and the Red Sox.
Grand slam!
Or the Rays take on Jose Ramirez and the Guardians.
It is gone!
It's Baseball Night in America on Fox.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
How many have you tried
to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success. What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby Horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-980-2344.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. In just a few moments, we'll be talking with Congressman Nick Langworthy. He is calling in, zooming in live from Washington, D.C. They are back in session. We're going to talk to him about that, ask him all the questions of the day. We appreciate Nick Langworthy returning to the program. Comment from a viewer. Frank, I wholeheartedly disagree with the one statement you read. The biggest loss, so the statement was that the biggest loser of the night, according to Liz Peek, was ABC News and the bias. He says, the viewer says, the biggest loss was for the American voter. The biggest loser was the American voter. Nothing of value came from the debate. We are still left questioning about policies and what will be done for our country and economy. Thank you very much. But to that point about ABC and what Liz Peek said, on Wednesday, Commission on Presidential Debates co-founder and co-chair Frank, I'm going to try it here, Fahrenkampf Jr., who was also chair of the RNC at one point, stated that the moderators, David Muir and Lindsey Davis, was, quote, the worst performance I've ever seen, and that they clearly were oversized, I think, on the way they treated Trump and bent backwards to help Harris. I thought one of the things that really shocked me last night was the way the moderators handled it. We always explain to our moderators, and we've done 33 of those, starting back in 1988, that their job is to be facilitators. They're not to get involved themselves. It's different than if you have someone on your show and you ask them a question and they answered it in a different way than what they said a month before. You can correct them. But moderators are not supposed to do that. A debate is between the candidates, not a debate between the candidates and the moderators. And these moderators, so far as I was concerned, it was the worst performance I've seen. And as I've said, I've done 33 of these things over the years. I don't know what their thoughts were, but they clearly were oversized. I think on the way that they treated the former president and the way they treated the president, vice president. I think they bent backwards to help her. And Michael Goodwin had a similar point. This was an article I wanted to bring up yesterday, but obviously, and if you're just joining us, you're probably wondering what happened. We lost power here on Market Street, on this whole side of the street. And so that meant we lost it here as well. And that meant everything went off. Boy, it went off quick. Car alarms even were going on. It was really eerie. Anyway, Kamala Harris did just enough, according to Michael Goodwin, to win the debate with help from ABC. She passed the test. She was composed and mostly clear, and there was nary a word salad to be heard. That's not to say she's now on the path to victory. It's simply that because of the unprecedented way and timing of how and when she got the party's nomination, and because she would be the nation's first female president, she had work to do with independent voters. She did it sufficiently well to clear the threshold requirement of looking and sounding presidential, a test that Trump had to pass in 2016 in his first win. Do you think she looked presidential? I've heard other people comment on that. And to Michael Goodwin's point, and really to Liz Peek's point, she was maybe over-prepared at times, but from going back to 2019 when she ran in the primaries, but of course didn't make it to the actual primary votes, when she did there, it wasn't that great. When she's given interviews and stuff, not that great. So the bar was set very low. But I think, who was it? It was Tulsi Gabbard who said she must have got, and I'm paraphrasing, must have gotten talked to or coached by some of the Hollywood donors that she has into acting and getting, for lack of a better word, kind of acting lessons. Sorry, I got so many waves coming in, but I want to make sure that the congressman is not on the line. We're going to be talking to him in just a moment. I am going to have to take a break. We'll be back with the congressman. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to see the difference you can make around you.
Come explore the
Sometimes
magic of
it takes a
Snap
different approach
Winery. It's the perfect fusion of wine, food,
to see
and
the difference
panoramic
you can make
views.
around you.
This charming
So I
destination
talked.
will delight
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
every
you have to watch the
palate
breaks
with a
while we're
curated
on.
wine style, wine by the glass,
Just quickly,
or your
when I
favorite
mentioned
bottle
to
share.
Grace
Some
the
special
questions, I
wines to
kept it
try
kind
are
of
now
generic
spiced
because obviously I'm going to talk to you a lot about
wine.
Trump and
Rosé is
campaign
the
stuff, and I know I
variety
can't ask her
of
about that.
May
So that's
enjoy
I didn't
brunch,
want you to think I was
lunch, or
being
dinner
course
at
at
the
any
on-site
time.
a little
restaurant.
weird there.
Imagine
Book
your
your
futures differently
experience
with
at
Capella
Nap
University.
Winery today.
I'm Mary Anford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house. And I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
And that's what it's
Serious
all
side
about.
effects may include ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of infection in your...
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and joining us via Zoom, Congressman Nick Langworthy. Thanks so much for being on the program again.
It's great to be back with you, Frank.
Boy, we got a lot to catch up on, don't we?
A while, yes.
Well, let's start first, and I want to take this on a serious note, because yesterday was the 23rd anniversary of September 11th, obviously. I think you made a very important announcement yesterday that should be highlighted, and it's kind of somewhat breaking news. We learned about it late yesterday. Tell us about formally launching the Aviation Safety Caucus.
Well, yesterday I joined with some of my colleagues out right in front of the Capitol, and we announced the launching of the Aviation Safety Caucus, which is a bipartisan caucus that I have formed in the wake of the work that we did this year on the FAA reauthorization.
Right.
And the last commercial aviation disaster was in this district. It was in New York. When we get to know the families, because we work with them so much, because they organized, because we lost 50 lives that day.
Right.
They organized, they got to work, and they made change, because there were two different standards in this country for flight training for pilots for the big airlines, and then there were these regional carriers that so many of us fly on every day, even though you buy a ticket from the banner of one of the big airlines.
Right.
In the FAA reauthorization, we were able to fight back. We building a broad coalition. I got an amendment passed to stop the Republican chairman of the Transportation Committee from weakening flight standards that these families had fought for. So many of us that were involved in that had a conversation afterwards. We said we need to kind of codify this group of people that fought for aviation safety, because it's not just a once every 5 years conversation. It's got to be a year-round thing that people are paying attention to, because there's going to be disasters, there's going to be accidents, there's going to be equipment failure, there's going to be terrorism, and we need to have a group of like-minded legislators that create a clearinghouse for ideas and legislation, working with partners in the aviation industry, our pilots, our flight attendants, manufacturers of air equipment, and airports, to have these discussions in between the FAA reauthorizations that only come up every 5 years. And it's members on the Transportation Committee and not on the Transportation Committee. And the passion that I have there, because I have fought alongside these families, that is permanently ingrained in me. And we're going to make sure that we are fighting to make the skies as safe as they can be every day, so that when you kiss your family member goodbye to go on that business trip or that vacation, it's not your last.
Right. Well, I think it was a great idea. It's almost amazing when you think of all that we've heard in the news lately that it's taken this long to have a safety caucus when it comes to aviation, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Well, and we've uncovered something right out of the gates. And our first piece of legislation is plugging a loophole. It's called the Safer Skies Act. And, we chose 9/11 as the day to roll this out because it was very salient. You have certain charter provisions where someone can call something a charter flight, smaller planes. And this is happening in the United States and some of the bigger markets, where they're advertising hop-on, hop-off service by avoiding screening in TSA. And it's just egregious. And what this bill would do is to plug and permanently wall off those loopholes, because no one should be profiting off of, and inviting people to buy an individual ticket on a plane with a known destination to avoid going through the airline security that everyone else has to. And the idea that we would market that and allow a company to profit off of that is egregious. It needs to be ended. And that's one of the missions of the Aviation Safety Caucus.
Well, great. So I wanted to start after that. How does it feel to be back in Washington?
I'd rather be in the district.
That's what I assumed.
It was really great to be on recess from Washington and in the district work period, and to see so many of our great constituents just kind of going, put a lot of miles on the car.
I'm sure.
They were all over the place, and there was a lot that happened during recess. Obviously, we had to come on out to Steuben and see the devastation of the floods that took place, and that's continued an awful lot of work as we try to work with those families and work to get that proper disaster declaration so that we could get FEMA relief there. But it's just an incredible district, wonderful people, and definitely enjoyed having the time in recess. But now we're getting back to business, and we have to, because in a presidential election year in particular, but the politics kind of swallows up this time of the year, and we have important work that the Congress needs to accomplish. We need to fund the federal government. We have to make sure that our vital resources are in place for our troops and our Border Patrol and the Veterans Administration, all of these very critical departments. And I'm not a guy that promotes shutdowns. I mean, and some people might disagree with me. I mean, I certainly see some of the chatter on social media where people say, shut it down. There's no policy win that comes with a shutdown. The only one that gets punished is the troops that are abroad that have to call their loved one and say, hey, honey, I don't know how we're going to pay the rent this month or pay the mortgage because we're not going to get paid because Congress shut the government down. Or the Border Patrol agents that have to show up every day and try to do their jobs despite a hostile administration. And they have to do that and work overtime, and they have to wait for their pay until Congress gets its act together. or the nurses at the VA,
right?
That show up and take care of those that have paid a healthy price for this country, and they have to work the long hours and not get a paycheck. I'm not going to be the guy that makes sure that those people don't get paid. And that's just been my philosophy on it. I don't think shut down politics. Now, if there is a major cataclysm where we just can't come together, that's one thing. But to do it in the name of politics is not what I think is a productive use of our time. But we have a lot of legislation that's backed up in the pipeline, and we have to get moving.
Do you think a lot, obviously it's a big election year, do you think a lot will be done before November, or is this kind of the show trial type thing now? Just get across the finish line?
Well, I think traditionally what would happen in an election year like this, now the House has passed 7 of its appropriations bills. We're behind. The U.S. Senate under Chuck Schumer's watch has passed 0.
Yeah.
And
great point.
That's a serious problem. I mean, for instance, the VA and military funding bill, we passed that, months ago. They haven't even introduced the base text. I mean, there's nothing that's happened in the Senate at this point. So I think that is a frustration because I don't think there's a way to accomplish it without a continuing resolution before Election Day. Because members on both sides of the aisle, they need to go and have the right to compete for their seat.
Right.
Or, you have the U.S. Senate that obviously has to leave town too, because you got a third of the seats where statewide their opponents out campaigning and they're in Washington. So that we do have to shut down. We are due to be here, this week, next week, and the following, and then Congress is scheduled to recess until after the election.
Okay. Now let's talk about the election for a moment. I know a lot of people have asked, so do you think Taylor Swift has persuaded you to vote Harris?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just shook it off.
Very, very nice. But what did you think of the debate performance on Tuesday?
I think that President Trump really hit her on a lot of the key points. But I do think that she has, by some of the chatter from the conservatives, she's been underestimated. But we have to remember this woman is a trial lawyer.
Right.
She is a litigator. She has trial technique, and she used some of that. She also had 2 people that teamed up with her in this debate.
Right.
So it was really a 3-on-1 situation. I don't believe I have ever seen a debate that lopsided in terms of the rules enforcement and in terms of people fact-checking only one candidate or trying to clarify only one candidate. It really came off as unfair.
Yes.
But I thought President Trump, laid out his arguments on the economy, laid out their failures at the border, and she had no answer for any of the flip-flops, but the moderators continued to let her go on that. But how do you fundamentally change your position on 12 or 13 key things?
Right.
How do you look at the top issues that are going on in this country, which is the affordability crisis, which all of their spending bills that they have done in the last 3.5 years is why we find ourselves here, why we have hyper inflation in this country, and why prices have gone through the roof. And the border is either the first or second issue, depending on where we are in America right now. They created 94 separate executive actions, not through Congress, but through Joe Biden's pen, to create this situation. And she was the border czar.
Right.
And she thinks that she can say that she's strong on border security. The American people aren't going to buy that.
No.
They're smart.
I know.
They're intelligent. They know that their life was better off when President Trump was in the White House. They know they had more money in their pocket. They know they had better opportunities. They didn't have this economic angst that we have in America. Sure as hell wasn't in $1.5 trillion in credit card debt as we are today. Our constituents in our district are putting groceries on credit cards in many areas because they can't afford to make ends meet. And that's not a way to build a middle class. It's a way to kill the middle class.
Wouldn't it be nice when you think?
Their record.
Well, when you think about you mentioned a record, and you think about her policies, we didn't even know what her policies were until Monday when she put them on her website, and those are as generic. I think President Trump had a very good point on that, C-spot run, or however he put it, because there was no substance. And going back to your point about the moderators, why didn't they ask for reinforcement, or whatever the word would be? Hey, reiterate why you did that flip-flopping. But it seems to be acceptable now that she can run out the clock and to stay quiet and not give interviews and not do press conferences.
I mean, President Trump has taken virtually every interview. He sits on long-form podcasts.
Yeah.
He does what a leader would do.
Yep.
She has hidden like they did with Biden in the basement.
Yeah.
And, she certainly showed that she's capable of answering questions.
Sure.
Perhaps with memorized answers
Right.
and taglines, and she put a lot of preparation into it. They kind of telecast that she was going to lock down and do all of this preparation.
Sure.
I don't think that, us on the right can afford to underestimate her abilities.
Right.
And when you do that, you set lower expectations. She wants the lowest expectations because somehow that has paid great dividends for the Biden-Harris era, is low expectations. And then when they come in as average ability, everyone wants to say how wise and genius they are. She didn't answer any questions.
No.
This is the same administration and candidate that the theme of their convention was not happy days are here again. Here's, ask not what your country can do for you,
Right.
ask what you can do for your country. The theme was we're going to bring joy.
Yeah.
Joy.
Yeah.
I don't find anyone in the New York's 23rd congressional district asking me to bring more joy. They want relief at the pump. They want American energy again.
Right.
They want lower bills. They want lower grocery prices. They want to feel like the dollar's worth something again.
Right. Public
they
safety.
Want a brighter future for their kids and their grandkids. Yeah. It's not about joy.
No. And that's what I guess makes this so frustrating, because if you think about it, in the last couple months, you've done more interviews on this show than Kamala Harris has done in all media. And I know, think about that. That's a pretty amazing and stunning position to be in when, again, she didn't go through the primary process. She has never received a single vote to be in the position she's in today. Right?
She ran for president in 2020
and
left before she got any votes.
I know.
She dropped out because she was a miserable failure as a candidate. She was at 1% in Iowa, got out of the race.
Right.
And then didn't run for this, and they canceled the will of 14 million people. Yet they're the shepherds of democracy on the left.
I know.
I mean, give me a break. And the media just goes along with it.
Yep.
Not one person voted for Kamala Harris. I think that convention, it's just amazing watching it. The sheep in the audience are just so excited all of a sudden.
I know.
There were active talks early on in the media of whether or not he would move on from Harris.
Exactly.
And now she's supposedly the best future that the country's had. I mean, there's nothing democratic about what's going on in this country in the Democratic Party leading up to her nomination. This is a coronation.
Yeah.
And there's really, it appears to me, there's one person running the Democratic Party, and that's Barack Obama.
Exactly. Wouldn't that have frustrated you as a Republican if the shoe was on the other foot and that's how our nominating process went? I think Republicans would be up in arms and saying, I might be leaving the party.
We've had trust me, everyone and their brother in the establishment of the Republican Party tried to stop Donald Trump in 2016.
I know.
And he had to fight his way through a field of 16 people. The establishment, figures that tried to block him at every turn. And then even after he had captured the nomination with the support of so many primary voters, there were people trying to put the screws to him at this convention and figure out a way to take the nomination away from him.
I know.
He has done it that way and built a movement through the grassroots, uniting the Republican Party and bringing, frankly, a good thread of the populist message that connects our party to the working class, hardworking people that work with their hands in this country, which I just relish. Places like our district and in so many places in upstate New York where, it might have gone to Obama.
Yes.
I think not the district as it's currently configured, but the district as it was configured when Congressman Reed represented it, did vote for Barack Obama.
Right.
And now it is a place that believes in the values that President Trump's fighting for. Those are the values that I fight for in Congress. And we need to have an America First agenda that puts the American people, our kids and our grandkids, at the front of the line.
Now, before we go, because I know you obviously have a busy schedule, you're live in Washington. How is your campaign going?
Well, we're out there. I have a philosophy: you do the work for the people.
Right.
The election takes care of itself.
Right.
And when we certainly put a lot of miles on the car, marched in a lot of parades. Made a lot of visits during the month of August while we were on recess, and it was so great to see people were getting incredible feedback from the constituents that we meet with and people across the district. And looking forward to doing a lot more of that in the month of October when we return from our recess, but be doing the weekends as well as we go forward. But we're very humbled by the support we've received, and I expect we're going to go straight through the tape. We're not taking anything for granted.
Of course not.
And that's just the way I function year round.
And just before we go, what did you think watching, because it got buried because of the debate, former Governor Cuomo's testimony?
Well, I think that if you want to see some very good footage, go on YouTube and watch Elise Stefanik and Andrew Cuomo.
Oh, hit it out of the park.
I think, our conference chair, Elise Stefanik, did a hell of a job laying out the case, and that is the best way to see that. I didn't have the opportunity because I had to manage the rule on the floor to sit as a part of that hearing, but I was part of the closed door earlier this year, the interview process with Cuomo. So I sat with him for 8 hours in that deposition that led up to this hearing. I was very glad to see this happen, and I think Elise Stefanik in particular did an incredible job taking the fight to him, but he didn't admit to a thing.
No, it was typical. Typical, right? Just last second before we go, because I know you mentioned this at the beginning of the interview, but I received so many comments from viewers that want to thank you personally for the Federal Disaster Relief Declaration and your fight for it, because our viewing area got hit particularly hard, and I know you came down and visited, so thank you for that, and I wanted to pass that along.
Well, I appreciate that, and politics obviously makes strange bedfellows, but we've been actually working very closely with Governor Hochul's office to fight for the disaster declaration that must come from the president. Our staff was in pretty regular communication with her state emergency management office. I spoke to the governor directly on multiple occasions, and as she put the formal request in, as the process must go, we immediately put our letter of support to President Biden with that to try to expedite that. I hope we're going to get that same cooperation from our U.S. senators. Those communities need relief. They need real relief, and FEMA needs to do everything it can. And luckily, the damage thresholds were high enough statewide from that weather event that they have that opportunity to meet the right thresholds to get the disaster declaration. But I really want to see individual assistance for these people.
Right.
I know there's been some controversy about the governor's new plan, and the thresholds aren't high enough because people's income breaks that, and they're not able to get that assistance that she pledged. And we want to discuss that with her further to see if there's any waivers on things like that, because these communities, they just went through this 3 years ago.
I know.
And we planned to go out there for 2 hours. I think we were there for 8.
Yeah.
And just talking to the families, talking to the business owners. I mean, they've lost a lot. Mm-hmm. And we need to make sure that they get this disaster declaration, because it's just necessary.
Well, Congressman Nick Langworthy has been our guest. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll have to talk again soon. Best of luck in Washington. Have fun.
Thanks so much, Frank.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never going to believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Is all
is in danger. Criminals can scan and hack your information without you even knowing. Worse yet, it's bulky and so disorganized. But not anymore, because Slim is in. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash truly protected. And now may be your last chance to get it for a low price. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from scanning your wallet and stealing your info.
Having your information stolen is a nightmare. But with Slim Mint, I know I'm protected.
With money clips, cash can easily fall out. But with the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. Then just press the button to release the lock. Slim Mint is ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to securely fit your additional cards and your extra cash. Even with everything you see here in the Slim Mint, it's still ultra-thin. Bulky wallets are uncomfortable, but the Slim Mint is so compact it fits in any size pocket. Plus, it keeps everything easy to access.
Slim Mint holds everything from pictures to credit cards, my driver's license. Yeah, it's still so thin.
Say bye-bye to bent cards and damaged magnetic strips. Slim Mint keeps them protected. It's crush resistant and can really take a beating. Similar wallets sell for over $100. But call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs and supply chain shortages, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. You still have time to get your very own Slim Mint wallets, but you must act fast. Don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-655-8103. That's 1-800-655-8103. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-655-8103 now.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So many viewer comments. Thank you to Congressman Nick Langworthy for being our guest this morning. I really appreciate it. All right, let's start with the viewer comments. Thank you so much for bringing to light and reading all the great comments. Hey, perfect. Your show's critique of the debate is outstanding. Equal credit goes to the viewers. Oh, more than equal credit goes to the viewers. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Next up, on debate night, ABC hosted a predictable game of We Win. The media, that is. It's been the agenda of legacy media for several years now, which is sad for our country. But thanks to the media's clear agenda, it has given rise to the podcasts and shows like this. And the media really did their job. We now, And if the media really did their job, we now know how many of Taylor Swift's followers were of voting age. I don't think we can downplay the Taylor Swift endorsement. I know we can joke about it, but at the same time, it is sad in today's celebrity culture exactly how much importance and how much influence, hence the word influencer, these so-called celebrities have. Not to say that Taylor Swift isn't a celebrity. She clearly is. All right, Ken has weighed in. Let's see what Ken had to say, who last time we tried to read his comment live on the program yesterday. Power completely blew up on Market Street. So keep that in mind. Frank, in response to viewers that will never vote for Trump due to anything other than his policies, I offer the following. If anyone is voting for anyone running for any local, state, or federal office because they like the way they look, their ethnicity, their gender, they seem like a nice person, or any other reason other than their policies, they are misguided. If I believe that between 2 or more candidates, one has a majority of policies that I believe in, or in my opinion are the best for the community or country, that is the person I will vote for. Yes, the Ronald Reagan 80% my friend, not 20% my enemy rule, right? I also believe that a wealthy candidate like Trump implies that he is a smart businessman running the country can be considered a huge success. And because they don't need the money or headaches, they're probably taking the job for the love of the country and not to use the country as a cash cow to get rich. I personally think Trump has many shortcomings. He isn't a great orator, but can get his message across. He says things that he shouldn't, but he is being himself, and that shows he is not being disingenuous. His biggest shortcoming and asset is his narcissism and the fact that he doesn't like to lose. He will fight tooth and nail and never quit to make sure he wins. Because of this, and because I agree with his policies, and that it has been proven that his policies have been good for the nation, he gets my vote. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Now, they have been, and back to the point about that we had with Congressman Langworthy and so many others throughout the last few days, which is the bias of the moderators, right? It's a common refrain from the debate. Those in the media are trying to justify it trying to justify the live fact checking. I wanted to mention this with the congressman, but I got caught up in a different question. Do you remember when it was somewhat controversial when Candy Crowley kind of interrupted Mitt Romney and fact-checked him in real time? That's like the first fact-check I think I really remember during a debate. And that was kind of shocking, at least in Republican circles, because it's how dare she, because it turned out she was wrong, and her fact-checking too. But to interrupt, now it's acceptable, and now it's encouraged. And now it's a common practice, not just during interviews, not, again, with only a certain party, mind you. Not in the Harris-Walz interview, but in the J.D. Vance interviews, in the Tom Cotton interviews. It's become a common practice for the moderator to fact-check, and unfortunately, very often get that quote-unquote fact wrong, but then the damage is done. Then they go on X, and they say, oops, sorry, and no one sees that X, and they move right along. So it is very frustrating. Well, CNN's anchor, Abby Phillips, justified the bias in the fact-checking by saying, just an FYI, when there is asymmetrical lying, there will be asymmetrical fact-checking. Okay. CNN's Daniel Dale claimed that Trump told at least 33 lies, while Harris only told, quote, at least one. That's the fact-checking for you. Harris-Walz co-chair was on Fox News Channel's Your World. The Harris-Walz campaign co-chair conceded that the moderators didn't correct statements from Harris as much as they did, or at all really, to Trump. This is what, and who exactly is this? I'm trying to think of, I know his last name is Coons, but I can't think of what his first name is. I just copied out the quote, but he's the co-chair of the Harris-Walz campaign. He said, well, what I make of this is that he was saying things that were not just misrepresentation of facts, meaning Trump, but whoppers. The particular one you just raised, the allegation he made that there's a town, I think it's Springfield, Ohio, where there's a record number of immigrants killing people's pets and eating them. It was at moments like that that the moderators interrupted to say that's been disproven. There's no evidence at all for that. And frankly, Neil, I think this is part of your role. The press on the next day, part of what they're doing in the after debate discussion is fact-checking some of the things that are normal, more standard, about did inflation grow by this much under your presidency or yours? Who grew more manufacturing jobs? He continued that, for example, these are things like job growth records that can be factually debated, before Cavuto cut it to ask about Harris during the debate. So more normal falsehoods. They were calling out the less normal falsehoods. Joe Concha, who we mention quite frequently, and we do have to take another break. We're moving fast this morning. Oh, look at all the waves coming in. I think everybody missed the show yesterday, and I appreciate that. We're receiving so many great comments. What did you think of the debate? Kamala's canned debate answers, according to Joe Concha, wowed the media, which is clear. As we talked about with the congressman, and as we've talked about in general, that the media just needed that performance, and I'm not knocking down Kamala's performance. I'm saying they just needed a certain level, a certain bar that they had to reach where they could say the momentum is hers again, the honeymoon is back, and hey, let's focus on it. Trump took the bait. Let's focus on these things that Trump said. Oh, he mentioned the election being stolen again. He mentioned the pets, etc. So Joe Concha believes it didn't convince the voters. Harris is prepared, and as Tulsi Gabbard said, here it is. I've been quoting it all morning, and here I had it in my stack the whole time. Tulsi Gabbard said that she was coached by Hollywood advisors to act her way through this election. That's why she has locked herself in a hotel room taking extreme acting lessons. She's got Hollywood advisors, stages, the Hollywood lights, in the hopes that her friends in ABC and propaganda media declare her the winner. And that may be enough to trick the voters to vote for her. But I didn't think American people are going to fall for it. Yeah, okay. I think I mean, that's to what Joe Concha's point is. It doesn't convince the voters. I don't, and I know we've mentioned this on the program, just optically, Biden had such a bad split screen during the debate that they made sure to, and I would even argue, go overboard with her expressions, the hand on the chin and things like that. But that has nothing to do with substance. And when it comes to substance, she did not have that. That was not prepared. That was not over-prepared. So there's key takeaways. There's always that, what it looks like, whatever the case may be. But it's about policies. And at the end of the day, Joe Concha and others believe it's not going to convince the voters. Kamala's sizzle may have wowed the media, he says, but it's Trump's stake and his stellar record as president that ultimately will matter more to voters. All right, keep those comments coming in. I feel like we're really moving along this morning. Wow, is it already 7:30? Thank you again to Congressman Nick Langworthy. Okay, I don't have to take a break quite yet, so I'm going to go to this and then we'll take a break. The Post editorial board said, here's the fact check that ABC didn't give Kamala Harris. And they go through and talk about, I think they found about 10 examples that were just so clear. I'm not going to go through all of them, which were so clear that should have been called out. And correct me if I'm wrong, as a viewer, what was the most frustrating? Let me reword that. I'm not going to say correct me if I'm wrong. What was your opinion when you were watching it? What made you more frustrated? Was it Trump's trips down those rabbit holes sometimes? Was it the ganging up by the moderators? What was frustrating for you? Because the trend, at least from viewers, seems to be a level of frustration there. Not completely. We've had all sides. We have people that clearly did not like Trump before, do not like him after. So weigh in on it. Now, what do you also think, because we didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday, we joked about it with Congressman Langworthy, but Taylor Swift's endorsement. It has led to a flood of voter registration site visits. And I know this happened in the past when she endorsed Biden Harris. So that's why this was never a surprise. I think it is surprising thinking about the fact she made that eloquent post right after the debate about making sure you do your research and all that. I wonder, okay, timing was good. I think they probably could have timed it a little bit better because they already had the media coverage of Harris with the debate. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. How long do you think it had taken for someone to write that post? I mean, she didn't do that right after the debate as if, okay, I did my research, check that off the box, and now I know who I'm voting for. Anyway. But as I said, don't downplay the significance of this endorsement. 337,826 visitors visit vote.gov after clicking on a custom URL Swift shared on Instagram after her Harris endorsement. It's not immediately clear how many people registered. They may not have known what the link was to see what it was for, but there is something to be said about that. But I brought this to you on the program Monday, and I mentioned how celebrities are in a kind of an awful position because if you say, I don't want to be involved in politics, the media go after you as not caring, not using your soapbox for good. You're actually on the side of evil. Then if you go, okay, sorry, I endorse Biden, right? I endorse Biden. If you don't go far enough in your activism, you're still just as evil, perhaps worse. So it's not an enviable position. Well, Vanity magazine, I guess you'd say, Variety, kind of sent out the threatening no, I believe it was over the weekend, Monday, saying, boy, I don't know, if I know she endorsed Biden Harris last time, but if she doesn't endorse soon, it ruins her legacy. It ruins who she is. And listen, a celebrity doesn't want to have any pushback, especially someone to her level, if people start turning on her over something like politics. So isn't it interesting, just 2 days after Variety says that no endorsement by Swift would be regrettable, that Swift made that endorsement? Just kind of an interesting time frame on that. Reading nothing more into it than just the time frame itself. Also, were you surprised when she endorsed right after the debate? Meaning, right after, to kind of take away some of the momentum from the, I don't want to use momentum, some of the coverage from the debate. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Frankly Speaking, just jumping around on a lot of the comments. Thank you so much for all the comments. All right, here we go. Now Taylor Swift's endorsement of Kamala Harris. This is how it matters, according to CNN. It was the Instagram endorsement read round the world, according to analysis by Harry Enton from CNN. Pop superstar Taylor Swift backs Kamala Harris for president. Swift's post also directed her followers to register to vote. Swift's support for Harris and voter registration will likely have some impact, but not as much as some would hope. Again, I think this downplays. And that's coming from CNN. I think it is significant when celebrities, in this scenario, in today's culture and how close this race is, I do think it's significant. So just to this person's comment, I'm not sure if you're having issues this morning. There was an issue the other day with cable, over the air. But the show itself yesterday, I should give an update. I gave an update in the 6 o'clock hour. What happened was we lost power along the way. The whole side of Market Street that I'm on was completely without power. The other side lit up like a Christmas tree. But that's what happened. So when the power went off at 6:40, it was interesting. So anyway, that's where that comes from. J.D. Vance tears into Taylor Swift after the endorsement. I thought he had an interesting take on it, saying, "We admire Taylor Swift's music," so not insulting. "But I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or not, are fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans. Look, when grocery prices go up by 20%, it hurts Americans. It doesn't hurt Taylor Swift. When housing prices become unaffordable, it doesn't affect Taylor Swift or any other billionaire. It does affect middle-class Americans all over our country." What are your thoughts? I know it doesn't necessarily persuade you, or maybe it does. I'd love to hear what you had to say about Taylor Swift's endorsement. All right. This is what we're dealing with in the media, just to show you, because we're going to get away from the debate. We still have a lot to talk about, and we have about 15 minutes to get there, because I was hoping to get a little bit on Cuomo. Did you watch any of Cuomo's testimony before Congress? Elise Stefanik to Congressman Langworthy's point. Wow. Cuomo, when she starts saying, "Hey, when did you sign the $5 million book deal?" and would not give up, it's worth watching. But just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with in the media, other than what we were talking about the other day, Joy Reid said on The Readout on MSNBC, "The way he desecrated Arlington National Cemetery," meaning Trump, "would be career-ending for a normal politician. Even this piece about saying my building was the tallest until they brought down the World Trade Center and now is the second tallest. Everything he does is despicable." Okay, now this is typical going after Trump. Fine. Ellie Mistel said the reason it does not end his career is his supporters are just as despicable. Trump is a narcissist, so this whole thing is a complete lack of compassion and empathy for everybody else. It's all about him. That is why he lies about 9/11. So, he goes on to, but it's not about his attack on Trump. Think of what he said, or what Ellie Mistel said here. He says he is the reason this is not career ending is his supporters are just as despicable. So you, family members of yours that support Trump are just as despicable. And here's another, I know I'm running through a lot. Where's Melania Trump? Former First Lady notably missing as MAGA entourage flocks to presidential debate. This comes out every once in a while. I mean, we know she's promoting a book where she's going to tell her side of the story with everything. I saw the interview where she talked about the assassination attempt on the former president. And in this scenario, now she's missing again. It's a common refrain that they try to use in the media to suggest some type of marital trouble. As a matter of fact, how long have we heard that that was going to be the case? But going back to what a viewer had mentioned, and we just glanced over quickly, Biden did don a Trump hat yesterday during an event. Listen, the campaign's going to use it. Trump's campaign's going to use it. I just think Biden's out there at this point. He's been stabbed in the back so much. They've insulted him so many times to come out of primetime during the DNC, et cetera, et cetera. I think at this point it's, okay, let's just have some fun. I'll show unity, put on the hat. He doesn't care at the end of the day. He's not running. He says, I'll give you my presidential hat, noting the presidential seal on it. And the Trump supporter insisted that Biden sign the hat to seal the deal, and the president agreed. Then he goes on and insults him, which I don't think was necessary. And then Biden posed with children who were in pro-Trump attire. An awkward photo op in the swing state of Pennsylvania. Yes, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about a dozen kids with Trump shirts, and there's Biden posing with them. So kind of a strange day for President Biden. Let's take our last break, and then we're going to wrap up with comments. I know I had to stagger some of the breaks. We had that one tech issue when the congressman was on, and when a break played over break, etc. Apologize over that. That was a Zoom issue. And I think I've got to figure out now. Wow, look at all the comments come in. Keep them coming in because we're going to wrap up the show with your comments. And thank you again to Congressman Nick Langworthy for being our guest. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Hustleson Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I have 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardians at each day's start. As time went on, it was easy to see I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardians works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardians can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
Serious side effects may include ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of infection in your legs or feet. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is really swell, the little pill with a big story.
And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street Corning. So many waves this morning, so many great comments. Let's go to some of those comments as we unbelievably wrap up the show. Harris not being made to actually answer the questions frustrated me. I agree, and I would say the moderators helped a role in that, but there was a few times where Trump got involved, and I remember this during, I think it was one of the Biden debates last go around in 2020, where it was refreshing to see the most recent Biden debate where Trump laid back and let Biden answer and kind of dig his own grave for that term. In this scenario, I think it was very similar, where I wish a few times where it's like, don't interject right there. Let her kind of get her way out of this if she can and dig that hole deeper. And I was frustrated with that too. Next up, from a different viewer, we were talking about on Joy Reid's show on MSNBC that one of the guest panelists said that Trump supporters are just as despicable as him. This viewer has said, quote, "I'd rather be despicable than wrong." Thank you, viewer. This viewer, talking about the Taylor Swift endorsement, says, "I don't think 8 to 16-year-old girls can vote. That's why Taylor Swift doesn't matter." I understand your mindset, but you've got to look at her actual demographic. And I know she's kind of pop culture, teeny bop type person when you think of her, but if you recall, she's no longer 16. Her fans have gotten older like her. Not that they're old, but what I'm saying is she has a pretty big demographic of fans. There's a reason why she was selling out those huge arenas. That wasn't from 8 to 16-year-olds. I'm just saying, I'm with you. I understand why you and myself would be prone to shrugging it off. I don't want to use the term, but I think J.D. Vance had a good point that she is not relatable, but I do think, unfortunately, in today's celebrity, and we have a viewer's comment that is similar to this, in today's celebrity community, today's celebrity, the mindset of influencers meaning so much, right? I mean, influencers, these are people that are getting paid just to support products, tell you what they're wearing, etc., on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. So to have influencers and that mindset that celebrity is the most important, and very much social media is the blame over this. You can't take celebrities lightly on endorsements any longer. Now, I do think there's that sort of Hillary Clinton overuse of celebrities where it's, I can't get people at my rallies, so we're going to have all these stars. That gets a little bit lackluster to some voters, and it becomes out of touch as well. So anyway, it's not just 8 to 16-year-olds, but I understand your point. Next up, from a different viewer, the future is looking like more followers than leaders are adding to the population. Yeah, more followers and leaders, sure. When it's a celebrity input that matters most, do the celebrities forget the Constitution covers their privacy or just their rights on speech? I think celebrities, when you reach that pinnacle, you want to stay there, right? I'm not saying she would ever want to, but if, hypothetically, if Swift were to endorse Trump, her career would be on the outs. Now, I'm not saying she would lose every single fan, not at all. But she would not be to the level she is. She would not be getting the coverage. She would not be focused on at the football games where you want to watch football and it turns out you're going to watch Taylor Swift the whole time. None of that would be the same. And that's very much like Hollywood celebrities. No matter what they believe in their heart or who they want to vote for, they can't, or it can cost them their livelihood. Look at RFK Jr. His wife was essentially threatened to lose work because she hadn't said enough against her own husband. So it's very much a mindset in Hollywood and celebrity culture that this is, you toe the line and you vote in this way and you endorse in that way, going back to variety. It's not just you vote in that way. You better use your soapbox. And, some people with job security, I mean, so many people out there in the world have done something they didn't want to do for a job. Well, I'm not saying, again, Swift, I'm sure, believes in Harris's message, but there are others that have to bite their tongue, just like, unfortunately, college students who may be conservative, who say, if I speak my true conservative beliefs, my teacher will turn against me. I'll be a social pariah on college campuses. And this is one of the reasons why, and we brought this up on the show a couple weeks ago, polling is so inaccurate for Trump because people don't want to lose relationships. They don't want to lose friends. They don't want people to know that they're a quote-unquote Trump supporter because of the rage and anger that's out there. So they keep it to themselves, and they may even answer a poll saying, no, I'm all for Harris. And then they get into the voting booth and vote Trump. And it's even Democrats who say he historically polls much worse than he actually performs on Election Day. Quickly, as we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking, Cuomo's congressional appearance reinvigorates calls for COVID-19 commission with subpoena power. Yeah, boy, was that interesting to watch. We also learned that Governor Hochul is hit with a subpoena by the House COVID panel for failing to turn over the documents in the nursing home deaths probe. Now, how insulting was former Governor Cuomo to Hochul? Numerous times saying, essentially, she's just in Buffalo a lot. She was busy. She was, there's no love lost between those two. He was branded some pretty strong names about how callous he was, how much empathy he lacked by furious families and lawmakers as he repeatedly deflected the blame for the COVID nursing home. Isn't it interesting how former Governor Cuomo was so keen to take credit for everything, even if he didn't deserve the credit? But boy, it changes when it's time to take the blame. Here's a comment from a viewer as we get ready to wrap up. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. I didn't watch Cuomo's hearing because it would be even more painful for me than the farcical debate was. And as for Tay-Tay's, meaning Taylor Swift's influence, I certainly hope her endorsement doesn't mean much or we really are in trouble. You may think I'm overstating it, but I think it's just like when we talk about social media. You may not use social media, or maybe you use it infrequently, but you understand it. A lot of people get their news, live their lives on social media. So when social media is, just like we saw back in 2020, bearing in the Hunter Biden story, for instance, or trying to influence an election, they have a lot more power than you would hope, just like celebrities. I see one comment here I'm not going to read, but a good point. Cuomo was branded a lot of names by furious families and by politicians, as Congressman Langworthy mentioned, Elise Stefanik, just like she did with the college deans and presidents, hit it out of the park when she kept doubling and tripling down, saying, what about, when were you signing the $5 million book deal? Debbie Dingell, Democrat representative, talked about the callous response from Cuomo when he said, who cares, to the eventual disclosure of the full death count. She said, I want to say, Governor Cuomo, I care. Every member of this committee cares, and more importantly, every family member who lost a family member cares. So let's be very clear about that. The country should have done better. He willfully deceived the American people, and his lies and denial delayed our response. Let the virus spread, and the country never caught up. Mike Lawler used terms I could not use on this program. Stefanik, actually, not that it matters, the committee got chastised by the chairman because there was so much clapping, and you're not supposed to do that, when her speech was over, grilling him over his $5 million book deal and accused him of blaming his staff for everything. Well, when her time was expired, she said, you'll never hold elected office again. And the place erupted. But we are out of time. Oh, there's a great piece by Janice Dean, who's been working so tirelessly to get the answers about the nursing home deaths, who lost her in-laws because of the nursing home deaths and did not get to see them before they passed because of the rules and regulations. Wrote a great piece at the New York Post. If you have an opportunity, I'd highly recommend it. One last comment from a viewer. I'm not buying the fear for supporting Trump. I do not have any trouble at all stating my political views and beliefs. Everyone I have talked to has said they support Trump. Well, that's to your point, that's anecdotal. Those are the people around you. I get that. I understand that. I know a lot of people that support Trump. I think there's a lot of people that don't dare. I don't think that's a bridge too far to concede that there's some people that just want to keep their head down and not get any pushback. But yes, there are a lot of Trump supporters that are very, very willing to give their side. So thank you for that. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you to Congressman Nick Langworthy for being our guest. Please join us tomorrow as Steuben County Judge, Corning City Judge, but also Steuben County and Family Court Judge, acting now and campaigning for the job. Matt McCarthy will join us. That's on tomorrow's broadcast. His opponent on Monday. So tune in every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early.